What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi, my man Eric Sheets. We're going to be talking through Wednesday's slate. It's one of those slates last night. That was the a million point slate, which you joke is not the Sheet slate, but you know what? That was a really hard slate to win because it's not like there was a major difference between where you're doing what you're doing and what everybody else is. It's literally like a 1v1 or a 2v2 that literally got everybody there last night. And what was there, 5 guys or 4 guys who scored 70 fantasy points? It felt like it anyway. And everybody else was like 8-9xing. So just a kind of a mess of a slate. Hopefully, the back-to-backs, that's you're going to get. And that's what happened with New Orleans, which just totally dictated the whole New Orleans and Toronto, which dictated the whole slate. Tonight, we have another monster slate, but we're going to try to simplify it and keep it close. I do think that one thing I want to bring up for myself, that even if it's right sometimes, like I had a lot of 3-man and some even 4-man Toronto stacks, which all was good. And usually I do the run back. And I didn't do the run back last night. With Embiid, and that was one mistake I think I may have made, and that's usually a very me type of thing to do. The other one that I did was I played the Pelicans guys without. I think I mixed and matched too much rather than sticking with the guys who I felt the best about, and I think that's something I could learn from. So just wanted to touch on that. Sheets, how did you do? And then what do you think about tonight's monster slate?
Yeah, to give you an idea of like what a crazy slate it was. So Anthony Edwards went totally ballistic.
Yep.
And he wasn't even in like the top 20 lineups.
Yep.
I had a little of that. I stuck with what I said. I played literally 100% Nurkic on DraftKings, and he was smashing, and then got into foul trouble, and then he ended up doing okay, but certainly not well enough to take down that kind of slate last night. But the other thing I did, which I got a little too cutesy, I played Jackson Hayes instead of Hernan Gomez, just hoping he would, get the come off the bench and get hot or whatever it is. But I tried a couple of things that didn't work out, so won't be the first time, won't be the last.
Yeah, that's what happens.
And I know what happened. I had like 40% Terrence Davis. That's what I had.
Oh, what did he end up with? Just
he ended up like getting injured and out of the game or something.
I didn't even. I totally missed. Oh, you know what it was? They were down by 50 points in the second quarter. That was
that what it was? Yeah, he ended up with like 10 fantasy points or something like that.
Yeah, that was really weird, that whole Sacramento situation, and that's just a little bit of an outlier, especially considering that Boston doesn't do that. But
yeah,
let's get back after it tonight. We have some teams on back-to-backs we'll touch as we go, and I will get my bets up a little later and all that stuff. So,
how'd those do yesterday? Any luck with the bets last night?
I actually haven't double checked it yet. I think some of my things were pretty good, but the problem was because of all the guys being out news, some of them were a little suspect because of it. But I actually think that most of them did pretty well, but I got to double check before I confirm on that one. I haven't gone through that this morning yet. All right, let's talk about game by game here. We're going to start off with Milwaukee and Cleveland. Sheets, what are you looking at in this game? Because the initial look is like there's only going to be a couple of guys who anybody plays, and I'm going to say those are bad plays because of the timing of the game, even though it's whatever, and that's going to, projection wise, it's going to be Dean Wade and Rajon Rondo who show up. Now they're both fine plays, fine value to take a shot at. It just feels like, especially after last night, maybe let's just keep waiting and seeing if we can find some better value. But the one other thing I'm adding about tonight is that at least we don't have one game at 7, 2 games at 7:30, 3 games at 5, or 3 games at 8, and then it's at least it's more bunched up between 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock is going to be the most important part to get right, and then we can always talk about stacking the later games because I think we'll have some value. But what do you think of this first game?
Yeah, I was going to say that on the Cleveland side, Wade and Rondo are showing his points per dollar plays. They just seem like stuff you're not supposed to do, but maybe you could talk me into it or out of it. I just don't. I don't know. That's just my natural instinct. Now, not that this matters, but is this a nationally televised game because it's against Giannis?
I don't believe it is a national televised game. I believe for that it's going to be the. I got to double check it, but it's got to be the 7 o'clock. I'm sorry, it's got to be the 4:30 games because there's a 7 o'clock games and no 6 o'clocks, and I'm sure they'd have a doubleheader tonight.
It'll probably be next Heat actually. No.
I'll call it up in a minute.
Okay. So I don't think I want to play those guys, but I like I don't know. I like Giannis. Giannis is no good. I mean, certainly it's a slow matchup against Cleveland nowadays, but he still gets 70 fantasy points. I don't know. Like you said though, it's an early game. I don't know if I want to commit 11-8 or whatever he is at 7 o'clock, but he's always good play. So he's really the only guy that I'm putting in. Again, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just putting like kind of shells in here. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'll put in Giannis, I'll put in Rondo, and then I'll put in Dean Wade just to have somebody in there. And we'll see if we can't do anything better. Do you like Giannis at all or no?
I mean, it's literally like, look, Giannis is matchup proof, but there's no reason why in this, like, the only reason to play Giannis here is just because he's going to be low owned and he's a good player. He's Giannis, you know. There's no logical thing that would guide you towards Giannis in this game. Maybe you could argue that a game that's going to stay close, there's a good argument for Giannis. But as of right now, especially as long as Jared Allen plays, it's just you have a team with elite rim protection. You have a team that plays slow. It's sort of all the anti-Giannis type of things.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'd mention. But I do think this is. I do want to mention one more guy that is going to be on my list if assuming that he stays crazy low owned. I mean, Darius Garland is putting up like it's a guy. He was 6 of 19 the other night. He had a rough night. His shooting has been, when it's off, it's a little tough. But at the same time, like the assist numbers are so high. All he has to do is get a little bit of that hot shooting night, and you're looking at 55. Maybe even 60 fantasy points for him. And you can get threes off of Milwaukee. So Darius Garland would be the long shot play I would consider from this game along with Giannis. But mostly I think we're going to find better spots. All right.
So Charlotte, Indiana, first of all, I do want to apologize. Not that it's my fault for anybody that's stuck with my original PJ Washington play. He made it 4 minutes before getting ejected. That was
this ejection stuff has got to stop. I don't even care what's happening anymore. It's too often. It's driving me nuts.
But that's going to get factored into his average minutes, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know how projection systems work. It just will. And he still rates to be a pretty good play tonight. I just can't imagine him being a play I really need to get to with a billion other choices. But he's fine. LaMelo, he seemed to recall him being more expensive pretty recently. Now he's only 8,100. Yeah, maybe, but as you would say, that's because he hasn't put up a single score that would make him worth 8,100, I guess. But I guess that's all right. Indiana, I guess LeVert. Nothing particular stands out except for that. So I would say LeVert and LaMelo are just kind of okay plays, and that's pretty much it for this game.
Yeah, I think it's great that what happened with PJ Washington in terms of playing tonight. Like, first of all, you at the front end of a back-to-back. So now he's the guy who didn't play any minutes last night. Okay.
That's true.
And you have a team that, again, they're missing a lot of their big guys, but usually does play a little bit big, which could have given him some plumley minutes. They're not going to probably tonight, but it is interesting that his minutes projection went from 31. I think after Hayward was out, it was going to be 30 before that. When Hayward was out, it bumped up a little bit. But with this is going to come a lot down to Hayward. And the reason I still like LaMelo tonight, don't get me wrong, he's on my list for sure. The problem is, I mean, Terry Rozier just steals everything from him. like he probably steals the ball from him when it takes up a lot of his usage. It takes up, a huge amount of his assists. I mean, Terry Rozier's had 6 or more assists now in I think 6 games in a row. Terry Rozier will take a bunch of shots that are not necessarily in the flow of the offense or LaMelo creating. They're Terry Rozier pulling up. So I just think that he's a big part of what's really taken away from LaMelo. That and the fact that Bridges has been really good. So this is going to be all more interesting if we lose Gordon Hayward again. And if Gordon Hayward plays, he's probably in play. But I just, with everybody there for Charlotte, it's always a little bit tricky to find the right guys. The other thing is on the Indiana side, I'm struggling with what to do here. I feel like there should be something we should be doing, and I can't figure out what that is, with the exception of Karis LeVert. I know that, he didn't put up a big number the other day. He missed a ton of shots. He was 8 for 21 by the end. They actually made some at the end. But again, he had a 35% usage rate. These are crazy usage rates. And when you have that kind of thing against a team like Charlotte, you could, there should be 50 pluses a good portion of the time for a guy like LeVert here, especially in a game that's supposed to stay close. And if you want to get crazy, here's the crazy play of the day. And you know who I'm going to say already. This is not a priority. It's too big of a slate, but it is at home, and it's also versus his other former team.
Oh.
So I'm going to put Lance Stephenson on my list at least. And if he plays well enough, I mean, Dwayne Washington made 7 threes the other night, for example. So Lance isn't going to play a million minutes, but Lance actually played well while he played. But if he plays well enough and they're running things with their offense and the first unit sucks and he comes in and they take over, you could see Lance Stephenson back with one of those 10X type of games at 0% ownership. It's really possible. So that's what I've really got in this game. But the priorities would be LaMelo, Washington, and LeVert for me. But I don't think we're going to necessarily need to play any of those guys, but they're definitely all on my list for right now. All right, LA, Orlando. On the Clippers side, Sheets, well, actually, why don't you start this one off?
Well, clearly, first thing is that the Magic are a stone lock today. I don't know if you saw what the Clippers did yesterday.
They got killed.
You sure about that?
And then they came back, right? But then they lost.
They were down 35 and they won.
They won the game? Are you kidding me?
Luke Kennard.
I stopped paying attention.
Wait, hold on. Luke Kennard, they were down 6 points. Luke Kennard made a 3. Then they got the ball back and he made a 4 to win the game. Oh my
God, that's crazy.
Including 400,000 fantasy points from Luke Kennard. So Magic, stone lock. Please don't play Luke Kennard. Anybody. I just don't do it. And going down I just wouldn't play anybody from the Clippers in this game, coming off of that. And on the Orlando side, I'm missing some stuff over here. Actually, I don't really like too much Orlando either. Wagner maybe, Suggs, but not much, honestly. Suggs, by the way, I mean, I actually had a chance to watch a little basketball a couple of days ago. That guy's good. Jalen Suggs is good. That's my hot take. But I don't know if I'm gonna play him at 5,800. So I don't really have too much interest in this game except to bet the Magic.
I think this is interesting because, well, if it's going to depend on whether Morris and Batum play, but if they don't, Terrence Mann will. I mean, he's 3,700. Let's get real here. That's a little ridiculous. And while I might agree with the sentiment of not playing a guy off the ceiling in Kennard, like he is 4,200 and can shoot yourself into a game. I mean, can shoot himself into 30 plus points, fantasy points anytime. And it's against a bad defensive team. So all of those things combined have me, if Morris and Batum are out, interested in both those guys. And I probably would expand that a little further. But I think Zubac in a matchup against a team that plays bigs, look, he's got a huge range of outcomes. We know that, but he's another one that didn't play many minutes last night. And before that, I mean, you look at Zubac's things, 12 fantasy points last night, 40 the night before, 27 before that, 30, 53 the night before that. There is a ceiling here for him, especially if they play big. And that 25 minutes, if it turns into 30, I think Zubac is an awesome play, and I think it could turn into 30. So all of these guys are going to be interesting, but it's going to come with the caveat. We have to wait to see what what happens with Marcus Morris and Batum. Very strange to see the Magic as a favorite against the Clippers, but it makes sense on the back-to-back and all that. I think that there's an argument to be made for Wagner, Suggs, and Cole Anthony, to be honest with you. Cole Anthony does lose a lot of his luster because of the Suggs being back, and Suggs has been much more aggressive as of late. So it does take away from Cole Anthony. But it's not a great matchup, but these guys are all in the price range that I would want to be interested in them in, for that 6 to 7X feeling very likely. And Franz Wagner is, he's been consistently producing all year long. If he has a little bit of a better game than normal, then maybe his fantasy points turn into 35 or 40 rather than 30. And even 30 at 5,200 is not the worst case in the world. So all of those guys are in play. The one who is the most like off the board, I guess, ish looking, and you have no idea what's going to happen with the minutes. But just because we know Bo Bamba has a ceiling, I'm always going to include him in my initial player pool if I was playing 150, assuming that he is a go. If he's not a go, we're going to revisit some of this stuff because all of those guys we talked about make sense. And then you get Wendell Carter, who would make even more sense, maybe even Chuma Okeke. So I do think if Bamba's out, it's actually fairly significant, but I expect him to play as of right now. What do you got for me, Sacramento, Atlanta?
I got oh, you know what I got? I got Fox remains questionable, right? So he didn't play yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And they lost by 7 bazillion points.
Yeah. I like I guess I like Trey a little bit at 10-4, I suppose. Sacramento, if Fox is out, then you're right back to you start with Halliburton, I suppose. And then I like Holmes a little bit again, but again, nothing earth shattering. So it would be Halliburton, maybe some Holmes. If Fox plays somehow, I think I kind of like Fox. So maybe you play like a Fox, what's his name thing, a Fox Trey thing, and make that work. What's Hield nowadays? Oh, he's up to 6,400. So yeah, I mean, we're watching for Fox News again, I guess.
Yeah, and so a couple of interesting things about this. Like, first of all, what do they do with Holmes on a back-to-back?
Right.
And it's a back-to-back where they got slaughtered, but yet they still decided to play him 24 minutes, which I just don't understand. If you're getting killed, I just think it's just bad coaching, and you're going to get a lot of that from Sacramento in general. Davion Mitchell also played 30 minutes last night in the blowout, and if Fox is out and Metu again too, which gives up these guys some more minutes, I think everybody all of a sudden becomes in play. I would rank it Holmes, Halliburton, then probably Mitchell. But I need those guys to be out, I think, to get too interested. The problem is this game is so blistering. You could get a million fantasy points in this game spread out. I just would like to see whether Fox is in or not before I really make any decisions. And I think we should know that sometime throughout the day hopefully before lock. Bogdanovich should be back tonight for Atlanta. Deandre Hunter is a questionable. Those guys have a lot. Like, it's funny because no one's projected to play at all, and Atlanta has like the nut matchup in basketball. So yeah. I have Atlanta as like one of those situations like I had with Toronto yesterday, even before Van Vliet. Regardless, I'm going to try to force in some of these guys. Trade obviously being the number one play. If I think we can get enough minutes out of Bogdan against his former team a little bit, now it's not in Sacramento, but hey, man, they did kind of give up on this guy. And, the last game that Bogdan did play, I mean, he was in the mid-20s and he had a mid-30 game against the Clippers. Why can't we bet on him in the best matchup against his former team at 4,600? Seems pretty reasonable to me. So this is a game where I think I'll have better information around 6. Hopefully we'll have some of the information about Fox. But I do think this is a game we want to target, even though it's hard to find players that are going to project well in the early morning.
Well, the Hawks are a 9.5-point favorite. I presume that they're projecting Fox out.
I don't know. It's because actually I feel like this would be what they would be favored. Sacramento's been really bad. Atlanta's been on fire lately. Okay. Atlanta's finally getting healthy. So I actually think it's pretty reasonable. Okay. The really weird play I have in this game, and it worries me with his minutes, is, I mean, look, I even think I think everybody's in play to some extent. But one of these days, Capella is going to break a slate, and this would be the matchup to do it. You got the shot blocking upside against a team like Sacramento. The minutes really haven't been there, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where I end up on that one. But I do think Capella could be a sneaky one as well. This is a game that I hate each player's price and projection, but I love the game environment, and I think we should look for ceilings, and that's why I like it a little bit. Here is the national televised game. You were right. It is the Knicks and Miami. The other one, for what it's worth, is what is the other one? It's Phoenix, Utah. Sorry, go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah. So as blistering as Sacramento, Atlanta is, this is pure molasses. This total of like 203, like, to me is like almost laughable. I mean, how is anybody getting 100 points in this game? I don't see that at all.
How is Miami only a 6-point favorite?
Yeah, because like I said, we're a 6-point favorite because only so many points can be scored. I mean,
yeah,
because they're going to win like 6-0.
In this game equals like 12 points in another game.
Well, because they're going to win 8-3. You know what I mean? But I'd like Butler's good. I mean, he's an all right play, but I don't know if I can get there in this type of environment. I mean, it's going to be 91-82. I mean, that's what I think. I don't know. And I don't really like anything for fantasy in this game at all.
He may let him kill me again, whether it's an ejection or a badly played night. He's been hurting me a lot lately, but I think Jimmy Butler is like if I was playing a cash game lineup, he would be one of the first guys I'd go to tonight. It's 8,500. He did put up the monster game. Of course, the game that I don't play on the weekend against the Lakers. He puts up 61 freaking fantasy points with another triple double. He's now the all-time leader for Heat and triple doubles, and he's piling them out. He's going to have more this season than LeBron had his entire time in Miami, which is kind of shocking. But he and Bam, Hero's supposed to play tonight. He and Bam are still really, really good plays with no Lowry, and no one is going to play Bam. It's a bad matchup for centers, but 7,700 Bam and 8,500 Butler. I just feel like one of those guys has a big game. And I'm going to go with Butler mostly. Really hard to do anything on the Knicks. Just got word Mitch Robb looks like he's in. So I just think that, maybe unless anybody's out for the Knicks, I just can't touch that team. You want to start us off with Denver and Brooklyn?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of how many fantasy points Nikola Jokic could get if he felt like it in this game. It's an interesting question.
On a back-to-back too. Yeah.
Harden remains a top play, and Jokic remains a top play, and it just comes down to whether you can get them in, I suppose. And as a result, you're going to get probably Jokic at like only 10% ownership, right? That's the way it's been this year.
I think today it'll be higher, but go ahead. Yeah.
But I have what's his name? Best play on the slate again today, Harden, and then actually I have Jokic second. So people are going to want to get one of these two, I suppose. And I don't really like anything else in this game at all.
It may actually be, if we find out there's a ton of value, which sort of feels like just the norm these days, it may be the situation where like that becomes the chalk build is Harden and Jokic.
Oh, really?
Because of the value. Like, look at freaking Jokic's game log, man. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And also, like, the weirdest part is like fading him, and if he gets like 70 even, okay, I can deal with that. But like last night even, I was disappointed in him. I played a lot of Jokic last night. I was disappointed because he had 65 with like 8 minutes to go. I'm like, oh, he's coming back for the fourth quarter rotation. We're getting to 85 at least. And he ended up with 71.75, which it's funny to ever say that's bad, but like, I think Jokic is an awesome play. I think Harden is an awesome play. I don't think I'm going to end up getting to Patty Mills by the end of the day, but early on, I think he's a terrific play. The minutes are there and just can shoot his way to a monster game. I do at my early projection look, he does seem to be a pretty chalky play, but I think he's pretty safe for 25 to 35. And if he gets really, really hot, he can get over 40 at 4,900. Sounds pretty tempting to me. But I also think there's other things like Claxton on a back-to-back. Are they going to play him? Does that open up enough? Maybe if they made it, if LaMarcus Aldridge was 4.3, not 5.3, maybe, but I can't quite get there. But I do think those guys are exceptional plays. And if Will Barton is out again, I think Jokic is just going to be even like a greater play. So Will Barton would be a good long shot tournament play if he does play, but I don't know if he's going to. And I love those two guys who you mentioned, I guess is the long and short of it. Huh. All right, Toronto and Chicago. What are we going to do?
Well, is what's his name 9K yet? Desanu? Not yet. Okay.
Is this guy, what's crazy? Let's look, Cheech, you want to talk about efficiency? Can we talk real quickly about this? Because
every game though.
This is like the steal of all steals in the freaking draft. Okay.
Right.
This guy was first team All-American, gave no signs to anyone why he wasn't going to be a lottery pick, did nothing wrong. Just happens to be, what was he, a junior or senior after he when he was done. And his efficiency is freaking incredible. But can we really play him on a big slate? I don't think so, but I just
how many slates is he going to break before we do it?
It's breaking though when he does it at 6,300, and he has to
and with DeRozan back too.
And DeRozan's back. I don't know. He's going to still play 36 minutes.
I'm not doing it. I'm just figuring I'd bring it.
I agree with you though. Like he is freaking awesome. Like he's great.
I tell you who looked real good the other day was Levine. in his, I don't want to say his first game back or whatever
Yeah,
it was. He looked really good.
Yeah, Levine without DeRozan looks awesome every time, and he looked great, and he was 6 of 19. That's how good he was.
And what's his name looked okay. Javonte Green. They're going to ease him back still.
He also has DeRozan now to deal with. Don't forget.
Yep.
And Deshaun.
So I do like DeRozan. Vooch, I think Vooch is fine. I think Levine's fine again, but nothing major. And then on Toronto, we got a nice game out of Siakam last night.
Got a nice game out of everyone last night on Toronto.
Yeah, and that would be the one guy I would like. It would be Siakam, but I don't. That would really be it for now. I don't know.
So to me, this is why if we don't have the news before, we're gonna have to stay with this game. Like we're gonna have to stay. This is why this is one of the games to wait for. Because if for any reason Van Vliet and Barnes are announced out after lock, now they were kind enough to do it before lock yesterday.
Yeah.
But it was the first game. So now we have the 8 o'clock game and the same thing on a back-to-back. I mean, anybody who plays for Toronto is going to play. Nick Nurse plays his minutes, even on back-to-backs. He does. I mean, Siakam just played a bunch of minutes and he's projected to play 40 again. I think I'll have a Toronto player in every lineup because my guess is one of these guys don't play. And even if they all do, I think they're all good plays. So I don't think any of them stand out as being beyond exceptional, except for Fred Van Vliet after sitting out last night. Maybe this would be a good spot to attack Van Vliet, especially because he didn't play the million minutes last night. And if Scotty Barnes plays, I'll have interest in him. If not, I will go right back to Anunoby, Siakam, and Gary Trent. And Precious let me down last night. And by the way, letting me down, it wasn't like he was terrible. He 5x'd his salary, but he only played the 25 minutes. And you had to compete with guys like Hernan Gomez going, for double his thing at the same type of, or a little bit more expensive. So it was just anyway, there's one of these Raptors are going to get there huge and maybe more. So and the Bulls defense has softened up a little bit. So I do want to attack this game. It's really hard with all three guys in for the Bulls, but I would say that DeRozan, his price is lower than we've seen it in a while, and feels like a pretty solid play. So he'd be my favorite with Vooch and Levine right there behind him as a run back if we have to stack Toronto again. And I'm not going to make the same mistake again and not stack the other side. Vooch was really good to me the other night against OKC. He put up 60. I like all of these guys, but DeRozan's price has me the most interested. So I think DeRozan or Levine is what I'd be looking at in this game.
And just to throw this out there, when PJ Washington got ejected, it was also Justin Champagny, whatever, from Toronto, who was ejected last night as well. I don't know what that means as far as tonight goes, but that's I guess he started and was out after 4 minutes also. So so whatever minutes, I don't know what
Champagne I don't think started.
Oh, he didn't? Well, the game, he got out of the game really quickly. Did PJ Washington start or no?
Not PJ Washington. I think you mean so. No, they're starting.
No. He got into a fight with PJ Washington, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
So they both. So whatever PJ Washington did,
yeah, PJ Washington doesn't start.
Oh, okay. So they both came off the bench.
Unless he ended up in the lineup last night at the starting lineup. I don't think he did. I think they started Caleb Martin. Toronto, though, yeah. I mean, you're gonna want to have pieces of Toronto if this game doesn't, if anybody's out, and even if they're not, they're still good plays. So probably good just to if we don't know and it looks legitimately questionable, probably just play the guys. That's. I mean, I think I'll have a Toronto player in most of my lineups, and I don't think they're projecting that well. I'm happy to eat it up. What do you think about Memphis and San Antonio?
Ja every day, I guess. On the Memphis side, we got some stuff over here. So, man, so DeJounte Murray again. How did he? I mean, he probably got buried on a slate last night, where everybody scored 100. But let me just see what he ended up getting. 47. He only played 24 minutes, huh?
Yeah, that game. I'm trying to remember.
They won by 30. Okay.
Yeah, it was the blowout, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. So I mean, honestly, extrapolate that out. He was on his way to 75.
So he'll get another 60 tonight, I'm sure. But then what happened? Oh, did he get ejected? Did Derek White? Is that what happened? Or was that the other day?
I'm not sure what happened with White. I mean, again, they were won by 30, so everybody
Right.
sort of couldn't really hit a ceiling of any kind.
I like both those guys. And I like what's his name? And Pirtle again. They got off nice and easy with a 30-point game on the front end of a back-to-back, 30-point blowout.
Yep.
So I think they can play these guys. It's a pretty big game against Memphis. You know what I mean? Memphis is one of the top teams. San Antonio is going to put an effort out there. So I don't know. Maybe this is a weird game. Maybe you're supposed to target this game. Maybe you're supposed to play Morant and Murray.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, except for I don't think it's weird or off the board at all. I think this is I think this is a big part of what people are going to do tonight.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think like again, it's a big slate. So you're talking about double-digit ownership, but not necessarily like crazy ownership on any of these guys. My order of San Antonio guys would be Murray, Podol, Keldon Johnson, Derek White, and it's really close. Guard is a little bit, I don't know. Guard and center are both pretty good tonight, but Vassell, people might chase the game, and it was a lot of blowout run, but he also is getting pretty consistent run. He's sort of taken over that role, and we have Keita Bates-Diop, who's probably going to be out again. I'm actually almost positive he is. So one of these other blahs, the Vassell, Walker, it just feels like a lot of whatever guys when you've got Derek White and Murray and Podol and Johnson all healthy. But I do think Johnson, Podol, and then Derek White and Podol are both going to project incredibly well. And I think that's fair. So I like this matchup. I like Ja on the other side. I think we can do our thing and play the two fantasy darlings of the year, Ja versus Murray against each other. I think that's a very logical route. We have Brandon Clark and Desmond Bane questionable. So this is another one of those big games that could open up again. The Anthony Melton sweepstakes, you get
Right.
sometimes, whatever. But I think Jaren Jackson, I mean, look, he missed every shot he took. Like he was 4 for 17 the other night. He had just a horrible game. I still think he's got enough of a ceiling to consider, but the main guys are going to be the ones I mentioned. And I think Steven Adams at 4,500, you get into a who makes more sense, Steven Adams or Rashawn Holmes here. And I think it's close between them. I think Rashawn Holmes has more of a ceiling, but Adams at 4,500 in a good matchup for centers. It's interesting to me. So I think Ja is my favorite. He's probably the only one who I really want to take a strong stance on. And then again, Murray, followed by Podol, followed by Keldon Johnson, followed by Derek White. And that's my order for San Antonio.
So Cameron Johnson did not disappoint the other night. This is against Utah. Phoenix, Utah is a repeat of the other day where Phoenix is a pretty big favorite, and as we kind of suspected, Utah kind of made up for all the guys being out and played a really, really nice game. And now they come home, and I actually like Phoenix here. But in any case, so Cam Johnson, he did play 38 minutes. He did score 20 real life points and 35 fantasy points, and he's going to come right back as a good looking value again today. So there's him. I don't think I want to pay 98 for Booker. I don't think I want to pay 9,000 for Chris Paul. For me, it'd probably be just Cam Johnson from Phoenix. And Utah, I don't know. I mean, it's the same guys out, right? So Mitchell's out, Gobert is out. But I'm not, for whatever reason, why am I not seeing them projecting all that great this time?
The pricing got it.
Oh, they moved them all up. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only guy I even have is even playable is actually his Whiteside, and that's barely. So maybe it's just an avoid and play Cam Johnson as chalk, and that'll be the end of it.
Something is odd to me about the Utah, and I understand that Utah hung in it. Exactly what we talked about happens. Get everybody out, and they still are right there. But why are they only 1.5 point underdogs in this game? That seems a little low to me. So on the Phoenix side, Cam Johnson is basically my only interest. I know people are going to want to play Biyombo, and that's fine. You guys can go ahead and do it. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just not what I'm going to do, especially at ownership. He has more than paid off his salary a number of times, and we have no JaVale McGee. They also like Jalen Smith, who's also in a bunch of trade rumors. And he's a young guy who a lot of people are interested in. There's a chance that, this game, Biyombo picks up 2 fouls and Jalen Smith we go back to Jalen Smith getting 35 fantasy points for us in 25 minutes or something like that, which is what he was doing before Biombo came into our lives. So Jalen Smith is my long shot tournament play here. But honestly, not really like finding a ton in this game, which, like you said, other than Cam Johnson, that is a game with a pretty high total, competitive game, and feels like you'd want to do more. Oh, Royce O'Neal will also be back tonight. Now, maybe, that's probably a little thin, Royce O'Neal. I just can't quite get to it, but kind of would like some action in these later games. So kind of frustrated that I can't.
All right. So I got something for you. So I don't know if were we live yesterday or whether we did the recording. Yeah, we were live yesterday. And I was saying that I don't need to play, like Luka or whatever, this Golden State game is whatever, is to probably be like defensive game. I'd rather play Minnesota Portland. And you were telling me that you think Luka's gonna be really low and he's finally getting a ceiling, whatever it is. I didn't even see what happened in the game. And then I looked at the game and it was basically a shit show. You know what I mean? Like Golden State won by a freaking 100, right?
Yeah, and Luka was destroying before that, by the way.
Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? They won by 100, whatever it is. And meanwhile, I was watching the Portland Minnesota game. I tell you this, I mean, even though Edwards made some shots, whatever, Portland can't guard freaking anybody.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna try Mr. Luka in the park upgrade, so to speak. I'm gonna do it. And I'll tell you this: if it weren't a back-to-back, I would go right back to Nurkic as well. But I don't. But you've spoken to me about that many times about Nurkic on back-to-backs, and I don't think I want to do. Now it's funny. I thought that he got in a big foul trouble, and he did, but he still got 32 minutes after all that. So that means that probably would have played it more. I don't know if I could do Nurkic on a back-to-back for a big buy-in, but I would definitely do Luka. And you know what? It'll delude me to think I have a chance. Like when I'm like watching all night, and I'm not the money in anything because I have like Luka just waiting for me later. I don't know. I'll freaking try it. Why not? Coming off of that shit show. Like you were saying, he slowly but surely, without anybody realizing it, been starting to put up freaking ceilings again. And just because last night just didn't go their team's way. I mean, whatever, we're gonna get off that. And as you just mentioned, I didn't even notice you're telling me that he was doing really well before the game got out of hand, So sounds good to me. I'll freaking take a shot.
Yeah, he had 35 at halftime, just the game got out of hand. I love the Luka play. Again, it's going to be tricky because I do like both Ja and Murray, and then you get the point guard spot is kind of loaded like that. I mentioned I like the Toronto guys. I like Harden. So you get Harden and those guys. It's hard to fit Luka in.
It ain't easy.
but maybe what you can do is maybe play, instead of playing Murray, maybe you can play the Podol or the Derek White angle. Those guys can hit a ceiling too in that kind of a game, and that'll open up the other point guard spot to maybe to try the 3-point guard thing if you want to go that route. Because I do think Luka is extremely viable. I actually think if it wasn't a back-to-back, I would be all over Porzingis here as well. I think it's a really good matchup for him specifically, and I mean it's kind of crazy that they dropped Nurkic's price so big. He's had very mixed results on back-to-backs, but he's had some monster games that are just interesting enough where a Dallas team that actually has done a good job defensively all season long, but doesn't have anybody to match up with his size. It's just going to be kind of interesting to me. Like maybe, I don't know. So, and the other guys like CJ McCollum played 39 minutes last night. That's not a great thing for a jump shooter. It's not exciting to play a guy when that's the situation. But I think he's on the verge of hitting a monster game.
I don't know. I think that these other guys are shooting too much. I think that Simons and Powell are just taking too many shots.
But right, and actually probably for the team's sake, that's probably accurate even. But even in that time, like I mean, he had a terrible game yesterday because he didn't make any shots. And that, by the way, neither did anybody he was passing the ball to. So his assist numbers were non-existent.
I was watching that game, and Portland was winning. They're winning double digits, and then and I'm telling you, Nurkic came out at like they got into the third quarter or whatever, and for the last 9 minutes, and then Minnesota went on like a 19-2 run, and Philly and Portland couldn't guard anybody. It was so brutal to watch.
Right. Well, what I would say is that the value you get in playing these guys and maybe late stacking a little bit is it is a back-to-back. You could see someone potentially resting. Norman Powell just came back. If he's out, that opens things up a little bit. Anthony Simons missed every shot last night and still put up 30-something fantasy points, and he's 7K. So one of Nurkic, McCollum, or CJ I expect to do well, but I don't know if I want to play that roulette game. I think CJ is the best bet. And I think Luka on the other side is pretty much it for me. So I do actually have a fairly tight core considering what we're at so far. So, I mean, right now, Cam Johnson at the moment, it looks like the highest player on the slate. Now, oddly, that day where I had all the Cam Johnson, when Utah announced that literally everybody was out,
Right.
it all over to Utah. I even left 900 on the table and played some of the Utah guys ahead of Cam Johnson, which with House actually made sense. It made sense. It worked, but because he actually outscored him. But there was a lot of things I could have done better with that. So here's what I've got for my priorities today. The Toronto situation, we're going to have to wait and see, but that is a priority situation. I don't know else to say it. I'm going to try and find something in that game on the Toronto side, at least one or two plays from that game in a good portion of my lineups. Jimmy Butler is one of my favorite plays. It's a price thing. I just think he's too cheap. Jokic, Harden. I still think Patty Mills is a really good play, but I don't know if I'd put him quite as a priority. Maybe that's a little bit too extreme. DeRozan or Levine, I think, are interesting. Ja versus Murray. I like that specific back and forth. But if not, you can play one of those guys, or you can play, Ja or something versus Keldon Johnson or Podol or White. I think it's a really good game to try and target. Cam Johnson and Luka. Those are my early look priorities. And I know obviously you can't play all those guys, but we're going to find some value throughout the day that's going to allow us to spend up more than we currently think. And the Clipper situation is very, very, very interesting if we lose Morris and Batum again, because they're just too cheap, especially Mann and Zubac. Anything else from you before we get out of here?
No, and we will wait on the news as usual.
All right. Well, good luck to everybody out there. We hope you crush it, and we will see you at 6 o'clock.
Yep, sounds good to me.
All right.